on the water lab if you need any help with the statistical analysis and graphing part, okay? So, first things first, you want to actually do the trials, 5 trials for water and 5 for some other experimental treatment. I did alcohol, but feel free to do oil. I was interested in soapy water. I might try that one too. Salt water, Gatorade, orange juice, chocolate milk, whatever it is you might have that you could use. And then you want to do the water one first, okay? Because if you put an oily or non-polar substance in after, it might mess up your pipette, okay? And then you're done with the pipette. You can trash it or dispose of it if you're done. So I've got my data, and the next thing I want to do is find the average. And you can find it by yourself. You can add up the values and divide by 5 because that's our sample size. Or you can copy and paste your data table into Google Sheets, and you can tell it to calculate it for you. Okay, so it may already suggest a formula, but if it doesn't, you just need to do equals. Always start out with equals whenever you're giving it a formula. If you just type in average, it won't give you anything, and then you'll know, oh, I forgot to do equals. All right, so whatever I put in cell B8, I want to be equal to the average of B3 through B7. Okay, so I'm using a colon next to the letter L and the shift, the uppercase one, to tell it, give me the average of B3, this cell here, through B7. And I'll know I did it correctly if the ones I want the average of are highlighted, which you can hover over and see. Yep, that looks good. All right, and then hit enter. 38.8 was my average for water. At school last year, my average was closer to 50, so I wonder what's going on here. Another experimental question. Now, you can do the same thing. You can enter the formula for alcohol, tell it C3 through C7, or you can get these crosshairs, this T down at the bottom, and you can drag over. And Google Sheets is smart enough to know, oh, you must want the average of C3 through C7. I'll give you the average of the 5 boxes above this one, just like I did on the last one. Hit enter, and there it is. My average here was 21.1. So I'm going to go ahead and carry my data down to the second data table, and then I'll be able to calculate standard deviation and standard error. So again, you can calculate the standard deviation by hand or on a calculator. Some teachers just do it, have you do it just to show you how tedious it is. You're finding how far away, how much each individual data point deviates from or is away from the average. So, the first data point is 0.8 away from the average. And the second data point is 4.2 away from the average. And the third data point is 6, well, you get the idea. You're going to add up all those values. Or you can tell Google Sheets to do it for you, okay? And the command, again, always start out with equals. I want it to be equal to STDEV of, tell it the points again, B3 through B7. Find me how far in general, standardly, do all of these values deviate from the average, 38.8. Okay, and I'll know I did it right. I know I'm having it calculate from the right values if they're highlighted. They are. All right, so let's see. There's a lot of decimals after that 4.3. Let me show you what to do with that in a second. I'm going to drag over here, make sure it did the same for C3 through C7. And here's the values. Now, I don't need all those decimal points. I'm not looking for precision to that level. My significant figures can stop at 2 decimal points. So I go to Format, Number, and that will give me to 2 decimal places. Google Sheets is still holding all those values in its calculation. So when I use the value later, it will still hold that level of precision. But what I'm looking at, it's easier for me to look at something that says 4.32 and 2.39. So which one has less variance, the water or the alcohol? Yep, if you said alcohol, you got it. Okay, standard error of the mean, or just simplified as standard error sometimes, or just SEM, is another formula on your formula sheet, and another calculation that you don't need to do by hand unless you want to. You don't need to memorize the formula. You may end up just because you do it often, but it's S, standard deviation, over divided by the square root of n, the sample size. So we have those values here, right? Equal to, instead of typing in the value, I'm going to tell it use B14 because I know that it's holding all those other decimal places as well. Divided by the square root of the sample size. Square root function in Google Sheets is SQRT, positive square root of a positive number. The square root of the sample size. In this case, I had 5 samples, so it's the square root of 5. Here's my standard error, 1.9339. And for alcohol, it's 1.06. Now again, if you don't want to look at all that, I might just do all of them this time. You go to, you remember, format, number, and it'll give it to you in a 2 decimal format. Finally, for 2 times the standard error of the mean, remember that gives us 95% confidence. I'm going to just do 2 times my standard error. So I'm going to do 2 times is shift 8, is the asterisk of B15. Okay, I'm expecting it to be a little bit less than 4 because it's 2 times a little bit less than 2. All right, 3.87 seems reasonable. And this one should be a little bit above 2. Yep, 2.14. Okay, so what? So those are the values that I'm going to use for my error bars. Okay, so I highlight the data, I'm graphing the averages, I'm clicking Insert Chart. There's my drops of water in blue, there's my drops of alcohol in red. I'm going over to Customize, I'm going to Series, and I'm going to use error bars. But I don't just want these standard 10% error bars that they're trying to get me to take. I'm going to enter my own because I did all these calculations, I want to see them. So on the drops of water, my error bar is going to be 3.87. So I go to constant, 3.87. It should get smaller. Okay, good. And on my alcohol, it's going to be a constant of 2.14. Okay. So another thing you might want to do is actually put in the data labels. So show me the values, but it does kind of obscure the error bars. So I don't know. You'll have to decide if you want to do that or not. How do you like it better? Like that or like that? I don't know. You'll decide. And then you'll want to do a better title than number, hashtag drops water, hashtag drops alcohol, right? So if you go into chart title, you can change the chart title. You can give a better horizontal axis title, vertical axis title. If you'd rather graph by hand, there's a graph there on the paper. You can do that. Remember with Cami we did it. And now you've got the values that you use for your error bars as well. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everybody.